Welcome back everyone. Last time, we started washing our ores. However, the sluice made some juice that we decided to dry. But this setup isn't working well enough. We don't have enough water and we have too much juice. So we are changing this setup to something slightly more complex that will give back some water and also usable dusts. The issue is that this recipe requires 64 Ru per tick, which means steel tier. Making such centrifuge and a turbine capable of driving it is going to take a lot of steel. And thus we have made a setup that automates steel making. It is made like the bronze one, with the addition of an air pump. It will keep the crucible half full and at temperature high enough to give enough time for all the wrought iron to turn into steel before being poured out. And thus we have our steel centrifuge driven by 4 bronze boilers that recycles the sluice juice while also making some nice byproducts. This is working nicely, but we are getting a lot of tiny centrifuge doors that take a lot of space and aren't really fully processed. So we are going to centrifuge them once more. Then we shred them into 1/72 of dust, which we finally funnel into blocks of dust. And here is the final setup. We crush the ores. Next we wash them for the extra byproducts and stone removal. Then we get extra byproducts by centrifuging. And finally we get more byproducts by shredding. On the back, we have a convoluted piping and funneling system to manage all of the dusts of different sizes. That will finally converge all of them into blocks in this chests. Now we have all the minerals we need. However, all of that machinery is burning a lot of fuel. And currently we are manually chopping down trees, so let's do something about it. We could make a forestry farm or a IC2 crop harvester, but it looks like they both require technology that we do not have. So, let's make some progress, like a chromium crucible which can hold higher temperatures and has higher thermal capacity. Which means that it will be slower to heat up. And that's good because it will be harder to blow it up when empty. Also it means that it will lose less temperature when we throw in stuff to melt. Next, after hammering down a weird pipe and a collar, we stick them on a 3 and put a pot on it. Then we go to the gregtech version and take out some real resin, which we squeeze in our new juicer to obtain some fine latex, which we seal in a barrel with some raw vulcanizing agents. After some fermenting, we take out some rubber mix, which we shall cook in our first machine capable of doing vanilla furnace recipes. Apparently, by default, this machine will toss out products. We shall use a monkey wrench to change this, and thus we finally have obtained rubber. Next we need some paperboard. We make it by baling some paper and a circuit selector tag number 2 in glue. The bath needs the circuit to know how thick we want our cardboard. Now that we have the materials, we quickly craft a few more machines and we are ready to finally manufacture circuits. And thus we have obtained the first part of the circuitry. For the wiring, we need some signalum, which is composed of some really heavy alloys, as you can see from the speed at which our powerful burning box heats up our crucible. This alloy is made out of copper, silver and red alloy. However, silver and copper will mix together into sterling silver before reaching the temperature for mixing with red alloy. To fix that issue, we first have to heat up the red alloy and throw in the silver once the temperature is high enough to make signalum. And now we can finally pour out the needed material. We take the so-made plates to an anvil and hammer them down to foil. which we cut into fine wire, thus achieving the second part of the circuits. Then we bring all the parts to our improvised press setup and start crafting the so awaited circuits. And, after a really long wait time, we find out that these are not gregtech circuits. We should have known from the quest name. However, these are still useful for crafting stuff like a thermionic fabricator, which we need to make the tanks to show the quest book our progress. To power it, we are going to need some serious RF generation. And we are going to embed all the 4 power steps into a single machine, which we are going to fuel with the peat that we found close to our home. Next we use the new machine to make some tanks that can be used for completing fluid quests. Also, they are probably the coolest tanks for the way they spread their content, and they also look super nice and retain the contents. Moving on. We are currently melting minerals like chalcopyrite in a crucible to get small amounts of copper out of it. However, we can get more output by using a roaster. Thus we are going to process these ores in that way, which will also produce some sulfur dioxide. We shall fill some tanks with this gas and then put a pressure valve on a pipe to avoid the excess. Also, they are probably the coolest tanks for the way they spread their content, and they also look super nice. And we can also use this gas to produce some sulfuric acid and thus complete a quest. By the way, we can't use the pipes we have right now for handling acids. We need some made out of corrosion-resistant materials, like stainless steel. Next we quickly complete the other 2 acid quests and move on to the last quest of the steam age, which requires us to make some galvanized steel parts. To make them, we shall first melt down some zinc, which requires us to make some galvanized steel parts. To make them, we shall first melt down some zinc. Once liquid, we put it in a bathing pot using a ceramic cup. Then we bath some steel parts into them to make them galvanized, thus completing the main quests of the steam age. Now we can move on to the redstone age before entering the electric age. We are going to have to make some machines that seems to be really interesting, if it wasn't because they use redstone force mechanics. But maybe we should build them before talking.